This week on the Ear Scouts podcast, we're sharing what not to do the next time you are rope dropping at Disney World. Plus, we're answering your questions about meeting characters, driving versus Disney transportation, and where you should book your first lightning lanes of the day. We got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Hi, ho, 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 everybody. This is Rob with Ear Scouts coming to you from our makeshift studio here in Celebration, Florida. Welcome to episode 11 of the Ear Scouts podcast, where we gather around the virtual campfire to talk about Disney World and Disney parks around the world. We also have a surprise guest joining us here in Celebration this week. It's Jessica, who is in the midst of a Disney World vacation and graciously made some time to come record a podcast with us today. Hi ho, Jessica.
Hi ho. I really appreciate you guys letting me bring the cold weather down with me because I can say I did not pack for this kind of Florida.
Well, we're really grateful for any cold weather. In fact, if you like to come in August and bring some cold weather, we would take that as well.
I needed to bring a few more sweaters with me, but it's all good. I'm having a good time and glad to be here.
Also joining us here in Celebration, where he's going to be keeping up with the Patreon live chat, is Eric. Hi ho, Eric.
Hi ho, everyone.
If you'd like to join us live and be part of that Patreon live chat, all you have to do is visit patreon.com/Ear Scouts, and you'll also get to stick around for the exclusive Patreon after party. Also in a place where he is not normally at is Craig. He is in lovely Las Vegas, Nevada, and he's joining us from his very fancy hotel on the Strip. Hi ho, Craig.
Hi ho, everybody.
Let's kick things off like we always do by gathering around the virtual campfire to talk about the latest Disney parks news. Craig, let's start with you because I think you've got the most exciting news to share. And that is when we're going to get to ride those new and returning attractions at Walt Disney World.
We have a lot of news that came out of Disney for 2026. Frozen Ever After will be closing on January 26th. To put in the new animatronics with real faces and not projections. And they say we'll be reopening in February. We have the Festival of the Arts dates that were announced, January 16th through February 23rd. Also Flower and Garden dates, March 4th through June 1st. And a big one from the Magic Kingdom. We've got Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, which should be reopening on the ambiguous date of spring 2026. And Bluey and Bingo are going to be coming to Animal Kingdom at the Conservation Station.
I may be most excited about Bluey and Bingo. And actually, Big Thunder is what I'm most excited about. Bluey and Bingo is a close second. I'm really excited about them coming to Disney World.
So Rock and Roller Coaster, we don't have specific dates, but it will be closing sometime in the spring, but opening back in the summer. So it should be a very quick layover. Hopefully have everything ready. They can just pop things in. We have a new mission on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run starting on May 22nd. Soarin' Across America, the new Soarin' version is going to be coming on Memorial Day, May 25th. So yeah, they announced a lot of things. A couple things that were really kind of conspicuously missed. Were the castle painting, because they said they were going to change the color of the castle back to the original white or light gray. They also didn't mention the Carousel of Progress redo, where we're getting a new Walt animatronic and new scenes. So that stuff might be delayed till 2027.
I feel like the castle, maybe that's just something because it's not an actual closure of anything. That's just something maybe they're just going to do it. But either way, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. And you didn't even mention the things that have already been mentioned, right? Because we know about the animation experience coming to studios. We already had a date for that. We're actually
the new Disney Junior show.
We're going to be doing a special episode at the beginning of January where we're just going to kind of go through the year of all the things that are going to be happening at the Disney parks, because it's a lot. I mean, just at Disney World alone, I mean, you went through a lot of things, but there's a lot more that they had already announced. So if you're planning a trip to Walt Disney World, we're going to really go over when might be the best time to come, because you might want to plan your trip, especially this coming year, around these things that are going to be opening, reopening, and special events that are going to be happening. So stay tuned for that podcast episode in 2026. Jessica, you got a few fun things to share this week. What Disney news are you most excited about?
So it might shock no one that on Thanksgiving I saw the new Zootopia 2 movie, but I do want to just remind you that 2027 has the most important movie release of our generation because it is going to be the remastered A New Hope on the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. I expect us to have a podcast listening party where we all go and then we can talk about it in detail, what we felt about A New Hope and how we really felt like it touched us and changed our lives.
Okay, well,
But
but just to make sure that we're on the same page here, it's gonna be the original version of the movie. I mean, that's what it's gonna be, right? It's gonna
yes,
be.
and it touched us and it changed our lives, and we're going to see it again. And seeing it in a movie theater like that is going to make a difference.
Well, no, I'm
Rob.
I'm I'm super excited about it. I just wonder if we could dedicate an entire episode to a movie that we're all very excited to see on the big screen again, but that we've maybe all seen already. Maybe.
I think I could.
All right.
So that's my movie news. But I do have some news about the parks. I just want to make sure. I know that everybody that comes around Christmas time, one of the best parts of Christmas at Magic Kingdom is the Christmas parade. And they actually are showing the Christmas parade or running the Christmas parade during normal park hours, not just the party, during the week of Christmas. So it will be December 22nd through December 31st, and it will run at noon and at 3. So if you happen to be at Disney World during that week, even if you do not have a Christmas party ticket, you can see the Christmas parade. And I highly recommend that you see it. It's very magical.
Well, since I am a certified Christmas junkie, I'm very excited to announce this next piece of news, which is that there is some new music from Disney parks that has been released onto Apple Music or Spotify, whichever service you listen to stream your music. And it is 2 songs from the Jollywood Nights show, Holidays in Hollywood. And that's the show that, of course, features Kermit and Miss Piggy. Sadly, there's no Kermit or Miss Piggy in these songs, which I think that was a miss. But there's a song there from Tiana that is a lovely song. And then there's kind of like a big band instrumental song. And they have immediately gone onto my Christmas music playlist, which I checked for this podcast to see my Christmas music playlist now has 145 songs and plays for 7 hours and 8 minutes.
Can I
That's
join
how
that playlist? Can
that's
you
how
put that
much of a
link to that?
yeah, I should do that. I'll put the link. It's on Apple Music. I'll put the link in over on Patreon in the chat. But I am a Christmas junkie, and I was so excited to have some Disney Parks music. You should also know, if you're a big fan of the Villains show at Hollywood Studios, that one's also, there's a couple there. I think they've even added some more songs since the initial one that they dropped.
Oh,
That's also there on Spotify and Apple Music. Before we jump to our main topic of the week, I did want to share some fun Ear Scouts news. First off, we are in the middle of our 12 days of scouting surprises, and we're giving out all kinds of fun stuff over at patreon.com/Ear Scouts. But you need to make sure that you get over there before midnight on December 12th, because that's when a lot of those freebies go poof and disappear. So visit us at patreon.com/Ear Scouts. Quick plug for one of probably my favorite thing that we're giving away to our annual Ear Scouts members, this calendar that features 23 of Eric's photos. And you've seen it in person, Jessica.
It is amazing and beautiful, and you would pay a lot of money for those photos. And I don't think that we say it enough, but Eric is an artist and his photos are amazing, and you're getting 23 of them to take in your home, or in my case, put in your scrapbooks. And it's just, I think we're framing the Figment one. it is beautiful. So thank you, Eric, for that. Thank you for that. And thank you, Rob, for the calendar. It's amazing.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
It's beautiful. The photos, just Eric is incredible. We share Eric's favorite photos each month over on Patreon, and it's one of my favorite perks that we have over there in the Patreon community. So go head over and check it out. We also have some free photos. Even if you don't want to join, you just want to get a free membership. Today we put out some free holiday photos that Eric took that you can use for your desktop or your mobile device. So head on over, check that out. And one other piece of Ear Scouts news, I just want to give a quick plug to the video that we just released on the channel. If you haven't taken a moment to watch it, please check it out because we put so much love into this video and we're really proud of it. It's kind of like a history video all about Disneyland, and we show footage from opening day, and then we kind of overlay that with footage that we took on the 70th anniversary. And we included a lot of really fun stories from opening day that you may not have heard before. So please consider going over to give that a watch and share it with your favorite Disneyland fans. But right now, it is time for a segment we like to call Pressed Penny for Your Thoughts, where we take a deep dive on a particular topic or question. And this week is all about rope drop at Walt Disney World, and more specifically, what not to do at rope drop at Walt Disney World. If this is not a term you're familiar with, rope drop refers to the moment when they quote unquote drop the ropes and let everyone into the park for the day. And we should clarify, we are not talking about early entry, which is a perk that you get for staying in qualifying resort hotels. What we're talking about is the regular park opening, regular old rope drop. And what I think sometimes confuses people about this period is they'll hear those tips for early entry. And a lot of those tips that work great for early entry actually don't work so great for rope drop. And that is one of the mistakes that we're going to talk about today. So, Patreon family, if you have any rope drop disasters that people should avoid, let us know in the chat, and Eric will share those with us in just a little bit. But I do want to start with Jessica because I think your first big rope drop mistake is actually something you need to avoid before you even get to the parks. Am I right?
That's right. And I think we've talked about this a couple times, and it's one of the most important things, and that is know what time the park you want to go to opens on the day you want to go to it. And I'm saying it like that because, particularly with parties, particularly with after hours events, particularly with random conferences that are at the parks, the opening time of a park may be different tomorrow than it was today. The opening time of Magic Kingdom may be different than Epcot, and it may be different than Animal Kingdom. And I've seen so many people just assume all four parks always open at 9 o'clock. That's what they assume. And that is not true. And if you think it's going to open at 9 and it really opened at 8, you have basically missed rope drop.
You know, the other thing that happens that's important that people realize, you might look at the opening times 2 weeks out, 3 weeks
Mhm.
out, and they will change as it gets closer to the day. Because what Disney will do, if they're seeing a lot of traffic coming into the park on a particular day, they'll extend the hours. Sometimes it means staying open later, and sometimes that means opening earlier. So I would say check it,
Mhm.
a couple days before.
When I'm planning real park days, the night before I go to bed, I pull up my phone, I recheck hours, I recheck parade and fireworks times, I recheck any shows I wanted to see. It's just important. So that's my first rope drop tip: is know when you need to be where you need to be.
Craig, what is your first rope drop mistake?
This is a pretty big mistake, and that is not allowing enough time for transportation. Like, especially if you're relying on Disney transportation and you have to make one or two connections just to get there. Um, just like air travel, connections can really mess up your itinerary. I think a lot of us know about that. Um, and Taylor in the chat earlier mentioned she took the monorail to Epcot. but they missed rope drop. So because they wanted to do the monorail because they thought it'd be more magical, by the time they got there, they'd already missed rope drop. So checking your transportation schedules is another huge one. Check the bus schedules that you can do on the My Disney Experience app.
And if you're driving, and particularly, I know we have some people that they're listening to us because they're planning their first trip or their once in a lifetime trip, or they're just a reminder that when you drive to Magic Kingdom, you do not drive to Magic Kingdom. You drive to something called the Ticket and Transportation Center. And when you get to the Ticket and Transportation Center, you still have to take transportation to either Magic Kingdom or Epcot. And I think that was one of the things that the Patreon chat was talking about. Is it is a lot of fun, and I have done it multiple times. Drive to the TTC and then take the monorail to Epcot. That takes 45 minutes. Plan it. And it is, I say do it. I have done it. But if your goal is rope drop, back up 45 minutes, and that's when you need to be getting to Ticket and Transportation Center to get to Epcot. It's a little bit quicker to get to Magic Kingdom, but in general, 30 minutes, I would say, to get to Magic Kingdom, and 45 to get to Epcot from the time you park your car, because you got to take a tram to get to a ferry to get to somewhere.
One of the biggest rope drop mistakes I think people make is if they come to Magic Kingdom, they start in either Fantasyland or in Tomorrowland, because two of the most popular attractions are in Fantasyland and Tomorrowland right now. It's Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and it's Tron. So those are attractions that people think, oh, well, those are the longest waits during the day. That's where I should start when I'm there and the lines are shorter for rope drop. Unfortunately, the problem you run into is everyone who came for early entry is only allowed to go into Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, which means those lines are already going to be really long. By the time you're allowed to enter, all the folks who are there from early entry have filled up those lines. And this is something that really extends to every park. Now, not every park has that situation where people are funneled into just two lands. The other parks, you can go anywhere, but guess what? People still funnel themselves to where the most popular rides are. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to who think that the best rope drop strategy, not early entry, but rope drop strategy, is to go into Pandora. And I mean, it's theoretically possible. Yes, it's possible that you could get lucky and be there at the right moment on the right day, and the line is a little bit shorter than it would have been at some point later in the day, but it's still going to be really long. I mean, it's not going to be a short wait because all those early entry people are ahead of you. But guess what? If you instead went the other direction, if you went the opposite direction of where everyone's going, you've got a string of walk-ons. I mean, you're going to be able to do Expedition Everest, Dinosaur while it's still there. Cali won't be open yet, but you can get to Safaris. Safaris doesn't open for early entry typically, so you could start with Safaris and have almost no wait there. These attractions, no, they will not have as long a wait as Flight of Passage later in the day. But if you do 3 of them, you are definitely saving time, because those 3 lines put together will be much longer than a wait for Flight of Passage later in the day. So that would be my tip: is don't necessarily do the biggest ticket attractions in each park first thing. I mean, unless you just happen to be there on a magical day where you look at the app and see that there's just no wait for some reason at one of those rides, and sure, go do it. But in most cases, those rides are going to be the worst place to start your regular rope drop day. Great for early entry, not great for regular rope drop.
Yeah, I love rope dropping the safari first thing in the morning. The animals are far more active. I think that's always a good solid start to your day at Animal Kingdom.
And don't forget characters. So particularly if you have littles, because I know we do have some people that watch that have little kids. Mickey and Minnie at Animal Kingdom, the princesses at Magic Kingdom, if they sometimes they open with the park for if they have like a location like that. Now the outside characters may not, but a location-based character, those are the best times to get low waits for characters. Because let me tell you, the worst line I've ever stood in is an hour-long Mickey and Minnie Safari outfit line. But I've done it. And those a lot of times don't have lightning lanes anymore either. So those are really good uses if that's important to you. And I know that rope dropping, sometimes people are like, oh, that's all about rides. But depending on the makeup of your party, if you have a princess, a daughter or a son who's really into Princess or Princesses, that line could be an hour later in the day, and rope dropping that while everybody else is riding, this Tron, that might be a really good use of your time too. So don't forget about the experiences that'll have long lines later. They're really, that's a really good use of rope drop time.
Well, Jessica, I think there's another thing that you were talking about earlier that in addition to rides and experiences and characters, there's something else that a lot of us think about when we're planning out our morning at the park. What is that, Jessica?
The number one thing people mistake is they get in the Starbucks line. And that just blows my mind. Outside of every park, before you even get to the rope drop, 30 minutes beforehand, you can get a Joffrey's. You can get a Joffrey's outside every single park. There's a Joffrey's. At the Ticket and Transportation Center, there's a Joffrey's. At the Skyliner Station at Caribbean Beach, there's a Joffrey's. There, on your way to the ferry at the Ticket and Transportation Center is one of the best Joffrey's. The lady that works there has been the same lady for the last 5 years I've been coming. She's lovely. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's been there every time. She's wonderful. People know her.
Jenna and Najat are the amazing ladies that you will see usually in the mornings at Magic Kingdom at the Transportation and Ticket Center at that Joffrey's, and they are
See?
incredible.
Amazing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But no, that is the number one thing I say. Do not get in the Starbucks line.
Craig, what is your next tip or mistake, rather, that someone should avoid when they are rope dropping?
Well, yeah, this is a big mistake, and that's not watching the Ear Scouts videos about rope dropping and early entry. Rob and Eric have put together so many great videos with lots of great tips about things like where to stand before they even open the park, where you're at the turnstiles. It's always a great idea to stay to the side, especially if there's one that has more open turnstiles. So say like there's a big crowd, you go to the farthest one to the right, and there's more turnstiles to the right. Very likely they're going to open up those turnstiles. So you can just keep kind of moving over to the next turnstile, hopefully getting to the front line. Just keep an eye on those people when they're taking those ropes away at the turnstiles. Yeah. Not talking about the actual rope drop in the parks, but that was one of my favorite trips I got from you, Rob.
Well, thank you. And we should mention next year, we're going to really refocus the channel on strategy videos, and that's going to be one of the main things that we're going to be focused on is redoing our early entry, our rope drop, our lightning lane guides. So that's going to be our top priority in the year ahead, and we will have some brand new tips like that to share very soon. My next big mistake that people make when they're doing rope drop is not checking wait times in the My Disney Experience app. Now, you can do this while you're waiting before the ropes even drop. You can see what the wait times are looking like for those early entry folks who are already in the park. And sometimes that might suggest that you need to make a change in your plans, right? You might think that something's going to be a good first bet for you, but then you look and see that, oh, for some reason, it makes no sense, but everyone seems to be backed up at Tower of Terror when that normally would have been a great place to start your day at Hollywood Studios. Well, that can happen because sometimes attractions don't open or they don't open fully when early entry happens, and so lines back up. So even if you have an airtight plan that works on most days, there are going to be some days where that plan is just not going to work. And you're not going to know that if you don't check those wait times as you're making your way around the park. So make sure you keep an eye on that. The other thing that I recommend doing, though, don't just think that because you see a short wait time at the complete other end of the park, that is still going to be a short wait time necessarily by the time you get there, because everyone's looking at the same app. And if it's a wait time that normally would be very high at that time and it is abnormally short, you're probably not the only person seeing that. So do keep in mind, especially for rope drop, when all those early entry folks are already in the park, they do have a chance usually to get there before you. I would say also take the times that you see with a little bit of a grain of salt if they're far away. But the ones that are near you, if you see a great time near you, take advantage of it. Hop on over, get on that ride while the wait is short, and maybe try for that one that's on the other side of the park, but just have a plan B in your back pocket because a lot of people might have seen that same time as you and all be headed there too. Jessica, what is your next?
My next one is exactly kind of what you were talking about, which is, and not necessarily for times, but for particularly at rope drop, there are certain rides that may not be up and running. Seven Dwarfs, Rise of the Resistance are two that really come to mind for me. Test Track in Epcot. And these are sometimes the ones that you've planned on rope dropping. You had in your head, I was going to rope drop these rides. Have a plan B. And also, this is the thing that I kind of always do with my group, which is we're going to stand here for 30 minutes. We're going to stand here for 20 minutes. And if it still's not open, we're going to go ride It's a Small World and see the Tiki Room. That's what we're going to do. But we have a plan and we talk about it. I think sometimes people just have kind of decision paralysis and they can't figure out what to do. And they said, oh, I'm going to rope drop this ride. So I'm going to stand here until I rope drop this ride. And you need to really think through, because here's the thing, it's going to happen to you. One ride that you thought you were going to ride is going to be down. Have that plan B and have a decision pre-talked about with your group. And I know I sound like the mom today, but particularly if you have the little kids, if you have the little kids, it's really good to communicate with them. Okay, we'll come back to Seven Dwarfs. It's not working, but we're going to go do this. We're going to stand here for this long, and then we're going to go do this if it doesn't work. And then they know the plan and they know what's coming. And I think everybody does better if they have that already talked out.
Yeah. One thing that's good for people to know if they're coming this time of year, if the temperature is below 40 degrees, I think is the magic number in the morning when the park opens, they will not run any outdoor roller coaster until it heats up above a certain point. It's a safety issue because the coasters at Disney and Universal, I think, are not built. They're not built to run at that temperature. It rarely gets to be that temperature, so it's not usually that much of a deal. But that's one thing that I learned that the hard way. We were trying to make an early entry video around this time of year, and we tried like 3 different times to rope drop Seven Dwarfs Mine Train for early entry, and we were like, why is this ride never opening with the park? And we found out it was the temperature. It was all of the roller coasters were down until it warmed up. So that's only happens at certain times of the year, but something's good to know. Eric, do we have any mistakes that people have shared in the chat? Any rope drop disasters that the folks in the Patreon chat think we should avoid?
Before I bring those, I wanted to add, like from Paula, she's mentioning like when you see the little star symbol pop up on my Disney Experience app, the line isn't moving. It's because the ride is not opening on time, and that's when you may consider bailing right at that moment or have your plan B, which is like, yeah, I mean that's sometimes you don't hear it from the cast members, and you don't know what's going on. You can check it on the app.
Sorry, what do you mean the star pops up?
So like
Instead of a wait time,
instead of
it's
a
got
wait
a
time,
star.
it has a star.
It's like a little, it looks like the geotag, but it's got a star, I think. Instead of the normal numbers for the wait time, it's a star.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see. You're talking about on the map view.
One of the things that Jen brought to the attention is that everything at Walt Disney World takes twice as long as you think it will. Parking, walking to the gate, security, especially that one, and scanning into the park. The whole process starts before posted early entry start time, which That is entirely true.
That's actually, I'm so glad that she brought that up, because that's a lot of folks who watch this, they might be coming for the first time, and you don't realize that if you have a ticket that has not already been linked up to My Disney Experience, to essentially either a Magic Band or to a park ticket or a hotel key card, that's going to have to happen at the gate at the park before you can get in. And, one tip that a lot of people don't realize with security, if you have anything large and metal in your bag, like an umbrella has that metal, you know, rod in the center of it, or a glasses case that is made of metal is a big one that a lot of people don't think about. But it could also be just like an iPad, anything like that that's large and metal. If you hold it out in front of you, and it's important, you have to be able to show what it is. So it can't be inside of a bag. You can't just hold a bag out in front of you. It has to be pulled out. But if you hold it out in front of you as you walk through, that can save you, in some cases, 30 minutes. I'm not kidding, because those lines at rope drop get so backed up with people who need to have their bags physically searched that just by virtue of having to wait in that additional line to get your bag physically searched, that can just totally throw off your rope drop morning. So I'm really glad that was mentioned, because I hadn't thought about that, but that's a big one.
Hmm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree with that one. That's
Yeah.
Mhm.
leave plenty of time. I mean, I will like take things out of my bag and not even like take them to, like, if it's going to rain, I won't even take an umbrella. If I'm going to try to rope drop, if I need to get through security quickly, I might even take a bag.
Do we have anything else in there,
Yeah.
Eric?
Dennis and Amy mentioned that a rope drop disaster is allowing teenagers to decide the next day schedule. That usually means that it starts at after 11 a.m. So
You maybe need to split your party into the rope drop ready crew and the will join you after a late breakfast crew.
That's a good point, though. I mean, it is really important to know your crew. I mean, there is nothing wrong with saying we're not a rope dropping crew. We're spend the money, buy all the lightning lanes and the multi passes and the single passes, and show up at 3 o'clock and stay till the end of the night.
Mhm.
That there is nothing wrong with that, unless you try to force those people to get up at the 6:30 bus for Animal Kingdom, because I've done that and those people hate you. So you know,
well, adding to what you said, Jessica, you know your crew. But like one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make is that they believe that being right there at when rope drop starts, like it's going to get you in a good spot, in a good spot. But actually, you have to get there like earlier.
Yeah, I mean, depends on what you're trying to do. But yes, if your goal is going to be to get on one of those bigger ticket rides that everybody is moving to, then yes, there's going to be people who got to the park. If you get there right before rope drop, there's going to be people who've been there for 30 minutes and they're all crowded up in front of you because they got there first. And by the time you get to that line, it's going to be as long as
mhm.
it would be later in the day, possibly. But having said that, even if you do want to be that person who you don't want to get up crazy early, you want to go right before the rope is going to drop, there are going to be attractions there. Like, off the top of my head, at Animal Kingdom, you can just walk up right as the rope is dropping and you can go get on Everest or Dinosaur. Um, the safari, you probably need to be a little bit earlier for that one, because a lot of people are going to do what Craig talked about. It's a very popular rope drop attraction. But those other two, you can just walk in. The new Zootopia show, you could probably just walk in to that one right as the rope drops. Also, if you go to Magic Kingdom, you could do Pirates. Usually, just walk right up and get on. There's not a ton of people jumping onto that one. I do have one last bonus mistake that people should avoid making, and this one is specifically for people using Lightning Lane. And that mistake is not tapping in at something as soon as you get into the park. Now, you don't necessarily have to ride that something. You can just use it as what we call a burner attraction. But here's the thing, until you tap in at something, you cannot book more than one tier one attraction, and you can only book in your first park. So if you're park hopping, you can't book for your other parks. But even if you're not park hopping and you want to book those biggest ticket attractions, you're only going to be able to have one of them in your pocket until you unlock. So what I recommend doing, I always try to make one of my first rope drop attractions, I try to make that a big ticket lightning lane so I don't have to worry about booking it, right? But then before I even do that though, I'm going to just tap in at something. At Magic Kingdom, a good one is Philhar Magic. You can tap in at Philhar Magic, and that one, you can do it anytime during the day and it's not going to have a wait. So you are quote unquote wasting the lightning lane, but you didn't really need that lightning lane to begin with. Over at Epcot, a good one is the Pixar Short Film Festival that happens up there. It's near Figment. Um, that one, you never need a lightning lane for it ever. So you could just have a burner lightning lane for that. Just tap in. The best case scenario is if you have a lightning lane that you're really excited about, that's going to be your first ride. Like, Pirates can be a good one for that. But just make sure that you tap in at something so that you can immediately start booking those bigger ticket lightning lane attractions for your day. Because if you wait until a lot later, if you just do a bunch of standby queues and you haven't used a lightning lane yet, what's happening is everyone else who is using lightning lanes, they are booking those big ticket attractions. And that means that those lightning lanes are going to become much harder to get. Well, sadly, those are the last potential rope drop disasters we can share with you today because it is now time to answer your questions from YouTube, Patreon, and the forum at earscouts.com. Jessica, why don't you start us off this week because you have a question that's kind of a follow-up to a tip that you shared in a previous episode.
Sure. So Brantner09C asks, if we are planning a midday rest, what do you think is best, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. or noon to 3 p.m.? And that is a very specific question. I will say, particularly because we've talked all about the transportation issues, things are going to take longer than you think to get there. I think you should assume you're going to take a break from noon to 3. You might actually end up getting 1 to 3. So if you leave the parks at noon, you might be able to actually take that 2-hour break. I think that's a good one. I think the one I talked about last time was Hollywood Studios, Skyliner to Riviera, and eating lunch at the Riviera. And that'll be a good 2 to 2.5 hour break there, hanging out and then going to Epcot. I want to avoid the lunchtime crowd at the other park, particularly Epcot. So I think noon to 3 is a really good break, but you also know your family. I know some kids need a solid, 2 hours and some kids need a solid 4 hours. But I think a noon to 3, a 3-hour break is a really good, to me, the bare minimum of time you should assume to take a break.
Yeah, I would add on that, make sure you check the like the entertainment schedule, like if there's a parade that you're planning on seeing, things that you might need to work around, I guess. It's just,
That's a
be
good one.
aware
Yeah.
of things that are happen at specific times.
Yeah. If you're at Magic Kingdom, for example, usually it's noon and 3 are the times for the parade. So if that was
Mhm.
important to you, maybe you'd want to go right after the first parade. Craig, what is your first question of this week?
Anyesa from Patreon asks, can you visit Animal Kingdom Lodge to see the animals on the savannah if you don't have a reservation to stay there? So yes, if you haven't been to Animal Kingdom Lodge or not aware of it, it is a big resort hotel, 2 different parts. There's Disney Vacation Club rooms there as well, but they have savannas with animals, with giraffes, zebras, etc. It's the main selling point of this resort. But can you go there if you're not staying there? Absolutely. Now, transportation can be an issue. If you plan on driving, they might not let you in unless you have a dining reservation, which I do highly recommend. If you can score a dining reservation almost anywhere at Animal Kingdom Lodge, I highly recommend it. But you can always catch a Disney bus at one of the parks or Disney Springs that'll take you straight to Animal Kingdom Lodge. But yeah, I've gone many times just to hang out. They have like lovely like places, viewing areas for people to stand. They also have animal specialists sometimes out there who can answer questions about the animals that you might have. I've always talked about like if I was ever going to do a no park stay, it would be at Animal Kingdom Lodge, just because it's so beautiful. There's so much to do, so much. It's out of the way, but if I'm not doing the parks, it doesn't make a difference.
And that's true of all of the resorts at Disney World. I mean, almost every resort has something magical to go and see and
Mm-hmm.
do, even if you're not staying there, and you're welcome to do it. I mean, how many people talk about the beignets, the Mickey shaped beignets at Port Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
French Quarter?
Or Yeehaw Bob
Oh yeah,
that Jessica
Yeehaw
just
Bob at Riverside.
yeah.
There's so many things that people talk about, and the French Quarter is a tiny resort. Not that many people can stay there, but tons of people will hop on the boat from Disney Springs and come over and get a beignet and
Mm-hmm.
go do something else. So do plan on spending some time at the different resorts if you have the time in your vacation budget, because there's so much to do. And the Animal Kingdom Lodge is a great one though. I would say it's probably the number one in terms of just having cool stuff to go and see and do. Next question we have is from Richard Lindsay 8256, who asks, we will be park hopping and we have early entry at Animal Kingdom. We plan to rope drop Flight of Passage and scurry over to Everest. That is all we want to do before going to Hollywood Studios. Should we make our Lightning Lane reservations for Hollywood Studios instead of Animal Kingdom? It seems like 3 reservations at studios would be more valuable than Everest. So I realize that's a very detailed question, but this is kind of the gist of that question is something that we get a lot. And my opinion is you are almost always better off booking at your first park, even if most everything you want to book is in your second park. And the reason for that is assuming that you want to do more than one big ticket attraction in your day at that other park, you're going to be limited to one tier one attraction until you tap in somewhere. And if all your lightning lanes are in your second park, you can't tap in to any of them until you get to that second park. And as we've been talking about in this entire episode, things take longer than you realize. You're not going to get to that second park until, even if you breeze through the attractions that you're going to do at Animal Kingdom, number one, park hopping buses don't start running until 10. Animal Kingdom opens at 8. So if you breeze through and say you were done at 9, assuming you're taking Disney transportation, you can't take a bus until a little bit later. So you're going to have a wait there. But there is one exception to this rule that I'm stating, and that is if you have one must do ride, and it is the ride that is impossible to book in that park. And Hollywood Studios is a good example of this. Slinky Dog Dash, especially during the most popular times of the year to be in the parks, that is a very difficult lightning lane to book on the day of. You can do it. I've always been able to do it with enough effort, but it takes a lot of effort. So if that is the ride that matters most to you, and I'm trying, is there another parallel to that? I mean, really, in the other parks, it used to be Tiana's in Magic Kingdom, but not as much anymore. I mean, it's really slinky at Hollywood Studios. If all you care about is Slinky Dog in that second park, and you just really want to have that out of your hair, you want to have that booked, that would be the only situation where I would say it's probably worth it to book in your second park. But in all other situations, you're just better off booking in your first park. One last thing I'll mention, it's going to cost you a lot less to get Lightning Lane for Animal Kingdom than it will for Hollywood Studios or Magic Kingdom. On some days, it can be dramatically less. And if you've got a larger group, it can be a considerable savings. I mean, you're talking sometimes $10-15 a head, right, to start in Animal Kingdom instead of Studios or Magic Kingdom. and that adds up with a large party. So there's a lot of reasons to consider to book everything in your first park. Well, Jessica, I think you've got another question about meeting characters, which is something you were talking about earlier in the show.
I do. So Julie V8K8M says, my question is about meeting characters. My kids are young teens, and we all struggle with what to say to engage with characters without being super awkward. Do you have recommended ways to talk to characters? Also, do you have favorite characters to meet for a good experience? So far, we have generally avoided the human characters since we have found it a bit easier than the non speaking characters. So, just for people that may not know, at Disney, they have face characters and then non face characters. And the face characters are like the princesses that are actually the princesses. And it is she said human, but it is a person that then talks to you and you can have a conversation with. Typically, if it's a full costumed character like Mickey, Minnie, Donald, the classic characters, they're in a full costume with the the whole thing, and they will not talk. They will express. They will, point. They're extremely expressive, and you feel like you're having a conversation, but they will not talk words to you. My big advice is understand that they are their characters. They are in their world. So they don't know about the United States of America and what's going on today. They know about the weather in Walt Disney World. They know about the movie they're from, the country they're from in their movie. This is a really good one, but our older teen really wanted to meet Moana. It was a movie that he liked, and we told him, talk to Moana about Hey Hey. Talk to Moana about the characters from the movie and the things that happened. And they had this really good conversation about the things that happened in the movie and kind of what's going on now with those characters and with their family, and treat them like the real person they are. And you have a conversation with them about the things that matter to that character. You're going to have a really good interaction. Every trip I will meet Mickey Mouse, because meeting Mickey Mouse is part of coming to Walt Disney World. I feel like that's a classic, and I will talk to him just about everything that's going on in Disney World. And when I meet Minnie Mouse, I talk to her about everything that's going on in Disney World. And it takes a couple of times before you really are comfortable with it. I've gotten to the point now where I'm actually more comfortable with face characters, because you can have that conversation and you can kind of communicate back and forth.
Now, I had a great conversation with Tiana about our gumbo recipes, and I told her about the time my sister put cayenne pepper instead of cinnamon into her key lime pie crust. But yeah, it's so much fun. You can as long as it's within their wheelhouse, they'll talk your ear off.
Eric, you gave me a really great piece of advice, because I used to struggle with this, especially, I'm usually, when I'm encountering a character, I'm also making a video at the same time, and I like to try to be. I don't want to take up too much of the character's time. I don't want to, hold up the people who are behind me who are waiting. And I used to just kind of rush things. I would just try to kind of get it over. And one thing that Eric taught me is that, because he's had a lot of experience with characters, is to just let that character guide the experience, because the characters, they're there doing that all day long, and they know better than anyone, how to create a good experience with you and your family and your kids. And so I once I stopped stressing it and I just kind of reacted rather than trying to be proactive, um I find that has been the best for me, is to just let the character, interact with me, as opposed to me feeling like I have to interact with the character, and take the first step. And sometimes I still do, if I have something that I really want to say to a character, just because, there's something special, about that character from my childhood or for something, then that can be a great way to start it, right? Because that gives them something to work with, to kind of build a great experience for you and your family. But if you don't, if you're searching for what's the way that I'm going to connect with this character, let them do that for you, because they will. They'll interact with you as opposed to you having to start that conversation. Did you have any other tips, Eric?
Yes, like for little ones, something that I see all the time is like parents rushing them. It's like, okay, okay, now look this way. Look, you're going to get a smile. Look at the photo. Like just let them, as Rob just mentioned, just let the character like lead those timings, those times. Like eventually the character a will will position the little one so you can get a better photo. So again, just try to be natural with them. And well, if you really have like a little one who is very shy, um one of the things that I have seen that helps for them to feel more relaxed is to have like a um autograph book. The fact that kids see, well, the little ones see the character sign them, like usually makes them very excited. So again, like that will turn into a collectible of like, let's see how many signatures I can have, or again, like they turn it into something fun for them, fun, turning into
Hmm.
like something that they are craving to get. So yeah.
Craig, what is your next question?
Harvey Gonzalez David asks, if we go to Hollywood Studios during Jollywood Nights, it looks like we get everything the daytime folks get except the Beauty and the Beast show and Indiana Jones. What am I missing? Now, he's talking about the fact that you can get into the park with your Jollywood Nights ticket a little earlier than you would for the actual Jollywood Nights, because that like starts at 7:30. Sometimes you get it like at 6. So you have a little park time with the regular guests while before the party starts. So the good news is you're not going to miss much at Hollywood Studios, except for some characters that may have clocked out for the day. But all the other attractions should be up and running. Characters you can see are Olaf, Kylo Ren, and Mickey and Minnie. But I think Kylo Ren goes away around 6:30. I think that was his last show.
Yeah, I will say one of the things he didn't mention was the Frozen sing along. So Frozen sing along, because they use that theater
Mm-hmm.
for what's this? What's this, right?
Yes.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
the shows also. The shows and the characters, you're right, Craig. Those are the big
Mm-hmm.
things. And it's the villain show will run and the mermaid show will run all night during Jollywood, but the other shows you're missing out.
Well, but here's the thing. The question that they asked was, what am I missing? It seems like I can do everything. Well, the catch is you don't have time to enjoy all the amazing shows and ride
Hmm.
all the rides. You're going to ride some. Rise of the Resistance can oftentimes be a walk on during that event, which is great. But guess how long it takes to ride Rise of the Resistance? I mean, that attraction alone is about 15 to 20 minutes for the full experience of it, right? Because there's so many stages
Hmm.
to that experience. That's a lot of your Jollywood night right there, on that one attraction. So even though you're getting short waits, you might not have time to do all those attractions that you would want to do and still
Yeah, that's
enjoy
true.
Jollywood. I have another question here from Science Fiction Dad, which is a great screen name on YouTube. Science Fiction Dad asks, what are the chances I would be able to park hop to Magic Kingdom on December 30th around noon? My hope would be to start in Animal Kingdom and then head over to Magic Kingdom, but I'm really worried about capacity and not being able to get in. So what he's talking about, when you have a park hopper ticket, you can always hop to a different park whenever you like, as long as there's capacity in that park. And the truth of the matter is 363 days out of the year, you're just not even gonna have to think about it. There's gonna be capacity. There are a few days out of the year where it's possible that you might get there and they might tell you, oh, we're at capacity right now. We can't let anyone else in. It's so rare that that happens, though. I mean, it's and even when it does happen, it just means you have to wait a little bit for some people to leave because people are always coming and going. So it's not the end of the world. I did get a tip, though. I talked to a cast member about this. So what the cast member recommended, get a dining reservation in that second park because they will typically, even if they're at capacity, they will arrange for you to be the first to get in because you've got a dining reservation. You've got somewhere you have to be inside the park at a specific time. And operationally, they're going to try to make sure whatever they can do to make that happen, they're going to do. So the real answer is you're probably not going to have to worry about it, especially on the 30th. But if you are still worried, that's going to be your ace in your pocket, is to just have a dining reservation for around the time that you want to get in.
Yeah, I have another question on that actually. Because I've never been there during those dates, but how do they let you know? Like, is there like a blast on my Disney experience? So they say Magic Kingdom is at capacity.
Back in the bad old days after COVID, when this happened more frequently because they had much reduced capacity, they had a phone number that you could call and it would let you know if any park was at capacity. I don't know that that still functions anymore just because it's such, then it was needed, right? Kind of more regularly. Whereas now it's just, I can tell you this. I always go to the parks on Christmas Day, July 4th, New Year's Eve. I go those days. I hard cop. I've never once not been able to get into any park. Now I know it happens. I've heard that it happens, but it is so rare and it is so unlikely. And even when it does happen, you can usually just wait a little bit and you'll be able to get in. So I would say this is not something that you need to overly concern yourself with. Maybe on the 31st, as it gets closer to evening, lots of people are coming in for the fireworks show. Maybe you want to have a dining reservation in your back pocket, just as a fail safe. But on the 30th, you're going to be fine. Jessica, I think you have a question that's actually about something we talked a lot about earlier in the show.
It is. So Elizabeth Kearns, and I believe this was from our forum, asked about parking. I'm considering driving down instead of flying. Tell me all about parking. Now I'm considering it as a plan A, maybe. Staying on property, French Quarter. Which parks are best to park versus Disney transportation? Which parks should I use preferred parking? What are the overall pros and cons of parking versus Disney transportation? Will I gain any time either at parks or sleeping in by driving, or is it about the same? So, big picture, the one thing I will say is if I'm going to Magic Kingdom and I'm rope dropping or early entry Magic Kingdom, I never drive. Even if I have a car, if I can avoid driving, because you get dropped off at Magic Kingdom versus getting dropped off at the Ticket and Transportation Center. Now, if part of your adventure is the monorail or the ferry and you're not rope dropping, maybe that's a different story. But Magic Kingdom, I would take Disney transportation. That's the first kind of pro or con that I would say. For us personally, we usually have a rental car. If I'm not staying at a monorail loop or a beach club skyliner, if you're not staying on a what I'll call non-bus secondary transportation place, it may be easier to drive. The other thing that you need to understand is if you're taking the bus and you have a stroller, strollers must be collapsed on the bus. So if you had a car that you could just kind of half fold the stroller in the back and you didn't have to completely collapse it, you could leave all your stuff in it, that may be easier for you than having to take that stroller on the bus. I have seen a lot of parents struggle with that part of getting on the bus. So just remember that as well, is that, you've got to collapse your stroller to get on the bus. If you have a stroller, you can take it on the Skyliner, you can take it on the ferry, you can take it on the monorail. Some double strollers don't fit on the Skyliners, you have to collapse those. So strollers are another part of this conversation. If you have a stroller that fits in your car and you know how it fits in your car, you might want to drive for that sake too. So that's my first, when do I drive? If I'm staying at a property that doesn't have a secondary transportation and it's not to Magic Kingdom, I may drive. So the second part of the question was, when should you use preferred parking? And which park should I use preferred parking in? And I'm going to say this, I have only used preferred parking once. I have been coming to Disney World for a very long time because remember, we've talked about I'm old. I mean, it's okay though. Becoming to Disney World, I've used preferred parking only one time, and that was at Hollywood Studios when it was super, super crowded. And I was coming at like 2 p.m. and I was meeting people in the back, and I did not want to mess with a tram. I paid the $25 and parked at Hollywood Studios up front. In general, unless you're just in a super hurry and you have a real reason, I would not pay for preferred parking. It's just not worth it to my mind. You're going to get to ride the tram. It's easy. There would be very few situations where I really think you need preferred parking. I know that I've had friends who did it because they had dining reservations and they were worried about missing that dining reservation. So they got preferred parking so they didn't have to do the tram.
Here's the thing about parking. It's such a roll of the dice where you're going to get, even if you get preferred parking. I have seen people get preferred parking and they have a terrible parking space because the preferred parking lot's still pretty big and it depends on where in the row you get parked. A lot of times I get parked in a regular parking where I didn't pay for preferred, and I can see a car parked in preferred parking not that far from my vehicle. You know what I mean? It's like it's right there. And I just think to myself, man, I would be so upset if I spent that much money and that was the spot that I got was that.
If you're coming in the afternoon and you really don't want to have to take the trams, maybe. But that's one of those extras. And I might do a premier pass before I do premium parking. That's like, if there's things that I'm going to splurge on, it's just not the parking.
So I'm going to add one thing to your answer that might be, it may be skewed because I live here and I have a different relationship with the parks and parking than someone coming on vacation. But for me, if I can avoid having to drive, I will. If I can let Disney take me where I need to go, I feel more like I'm on vacation. I feel more relaxed. I feel more like even if it's a bus and even if it's a crowded bus, it's still a Disney bus. And I just feel more like it feels special to me to be on Disney transportation versus driving. And I will a lot of times go and park. I will pass the park that I'm going to go to my resort, to park my car at that resort and take the Disney transportation because I don't want to think about my car for the rest of the day. I just want Disney to take me where I want to go, and I want to feel like I'm, it's a privilege to be able to have Disney transportation take you everywhere and take you back to your resort. So I don't know. I love being completely inside the bubble when I'm staying in the bubble.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I think for us, a lot of times it's nice to have a little more control of our timing, and you 100% have more control if you're driving. But if you do what we've talked about this whole trip, which is understand things take longer, and it's going to take longer to take the bus than it would to drive sometimes, but you're prepared, it can be just as good. So I think that's part of it. And never drive to the TTC unless it's your only option. That's the
Yes.
other part of it.
That is definitely
Never.
true as a local as well. Avoid the transportation and ticket center whenever humanly possible.
That's right.
Well, Eric, do we have any questions in the chat from Patreon this week?
Yes, we have some. Well, from Elizabeth Kearns. I get knowing transportation is important, but I have a hard time finding transportation information. Is it easier to get that info when you are on property? Where do you go to get transportation info? And well, you're going to take a lead about this, Rob, probably, but like probably like a whole episode conversation,
Mm-hmm.
just because
Mm-hmm.
nothing is set in the stone, nothing. And you will get like multiple answers from multiple cast members, especially like related to transportation. But I'm going to pass it on you, Rob.
So we've been planning it forever and it's going to happen next year for sure. But we're going to do a transportation video because you're right. There isn't a lot of really good information out there before you come to the parks about transportation. And even when you get to the parks, in many cases, your best bet, if you don't really know transportation like the back of your hand, is just to ask a cast member, I need to get to this place. What's the best way for me to do it? And then a lot of times, even that cast member who works there is going to be like, let me think about this for a second, because there's so many variables with Disney transportation. It's the but really the hard and fast rules that you need to know are there will always be transportation options from one park to another as long as it's after 10 a.m. There will always be transportation options from a resort to a park that is open. There will not be transportation options from a resort to a closed park typically. There will not be transportation options from Disney Springs to a park. You would have to transfer at a resort. Now, in terms of which transportation is available, um, that's easier to what's the easy thing to do there is to learn the monorail and the Skyliner resorts. Boats, lesser, but boats play into it as well. But if you learn those, like which resorts and parks are connected by Skyliner and monorail, you can pretty much count on everything else is going to be connected by bus, with the rare exception of a boat here and there. So I would say just, you can just Google it, what are the monorail resorts? What are the Skyliner resorts? And then, in terms of the parks, monorail is Magic Kingdom and Epcot, and Skyliner currently is uh, Epcot and Hollywood Studios. And I say currently because I still believe that Disney can and should connect Animal Kingdom by Skyliner. There's so many good reasons to do that. But currently, Epcot and Hollywood Studios. So do you think does that help answer that question?
Well, I think the other thing is just a reminder that, like you said, once you check into your resort, your bus times will be available on your resort section of your app. Also, one of the things that I have found is if you put, I want to go to here, and you let Disney map you, they will actually help you find the Disney transportation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you map, like from example, I was at Port Orleans Riverside, and I wanted to go to Summer House on the Lake. It actually told me I had to drive, and I didn't believe it because there was a boat. But it told me I had to drive because there was no boat until 10 a.m. So if you use and I'm not talking about like Google Maps, I'm talking about inside of My Disney Experience, you can say map to this location. It will actually tell you what Disney transportation is available to
Mm-hmm.
get you to that place. And generally, I have found, with the exception of weather and it not knowing boats are canceled or Skyliner is down, like it won't know that, but it will know hours and it will know big picture modes of transportation. So that's another just tip that I like to use when I'm there is not Google, don't use Google, use the My Disney Experience map option.
That's a great tip. And it'll also give you a time estimate as well for how long
And
it
it will be
thinks
wrong.
you should budget. Yeah, it might be wrong, but it usually a lot of times you're going to look at that estimated number and go, "Oh gosh, I didn't expect it to be that long." And because it
That's true.
does take longer than you usually expect to get around. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for questions this week. But if you have a question you'd like us to answer, let us know in the comments of one of our Ear Scouts videos on YouTube, or join us live at patreon.com/Ear Scouts. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can hear the answer if we're able to include it. Before we go, however, we have one last segment that we like to call Happy Thoughts, where we share a little tidbit that brightened our day here at the end of the show. Craig, what is your happy thought this week?
So my happy thought is a new photo op that we have at Hollywood Studios at Sid Cahuenga's one-of-a-kind Tinseltown photos. And it's a cute little, like it's got a little fireplace. They they wrapped up the photos on the wall with bows and wrapping paper, and they have a beautiful little tree. But the best part about this one is the carpet they use is actually the carpet from Muppet Vision 3D. I'm assuming they had some extra somewhere that they use. It was because looks like it's in really good shape. But again, going back to, I know we talked a few weeks ago about the displays at Hollywood Studios in the shop windows, and they put 3 of the mannequins from the old Great Movie Ride in one of their displays. So I just love that. I love that they're bringing back like little tidbits, little Easter eggs of closed attractions, and that makes my heart so happy.
Awesome. I love that too. Jessica, what is your happy thought this week?
So my happy thought is I did see Zootopia 2, and it is amazing. And apparently I am not the only person that thinks it's amazing, because it's going to be the big $1 billion global movie of the year. It is the surprise hit of the season. I think you all know I was not surprised, but it is going to be a surprise hit that makes me very happy, because I think Zootopia has been a movie that was underrated and underrepresented, and I think this kind of gives it its boost, and I'm kind of really happy. I will say, walking through the park, seeing kids carrying Judy dolls and Gary the Snake dolls and all of the Judy ears in the park, it was just, I've seen so much, not just at Animal Kingdom, so much Zootopia in the last 2 days in the parks, with these little girls wearing their Judy ears and the boys carrying Gary the Snake. And it's been lovely. But I'm so happy that it's not just that it did well, that it did really well. I love that for it. And if you haven't seen it yet, go out and see it. It is a really fun movie.
Yeah, we saw it opening weekend as well, and we loved it. It was a really great movie. Eric, do you have a happy thought for us this week?
I was very happy to see some of our Patreons. And well, shout out to Ray, Lauren, Diana, and Jessica. Thank you so much for taking some time to say hello. Like, we really appreciate it. And also, well, I just wanted to give a shout out to Debbie. It took a long time, Debbie, but we finally got a calendar. So thank you for, well, thank all of you for all the motivation. Thank you for the kind words that you have given to us. And yeah, like, I'm very grateful to be here with all of you.
I love that happy thought, and I completely agree. And yes, Debbie, one of our very first Ear Scouts members on Patreon, said her dream was to have a calendar with Eric's amazing photos, and
Aw.
we got a calendar. We got a calendar coming in the mail to you, Debbie. So thank you
Oh, we love
for
you, Debbie.
for making that part of our plan, that we finally were able to make it happen this year. Well, my happy thought this week is about the Festival of the Holidays. We have a brand new video that's going to be out any day now. We're working on it. It's coming. But I'm very pleased to report that the Cookie Stroll is the best it has ever been. And in a recent show, I maybe threw a little bit of shade at the Cookie Stroll. I maybe said that it was my least favorite of the different scavenger hunt food things that you do, where you get your passport stamped and you try different foods at different booths. The Cookie Stroll in previous years has been a little underwhelming. It's been not the best. There have been some good cookies, don't get me wrong. For example, the Linzer cookie in Germany is always amazing, and it's amazing again this year. But this year, there are 13 cookies on offer that you can try. Now, not all those 13 are winners, that's true, but there are definitely more than 5 big time winners this year. And if you're doing the cookie stroll, you only need to have 5 cookies. So I will say, start out your cookie adventure at Communicore Hall, where they have the experimental prototype cookies of tomorrow. And there's one in particular, it is the prototype cookie, and it looks a little questionable. You're like, is this really going to be good? Because there's this disc of chocolate on top that I don't know what they've done. I don't know how they've magically made this happen, but it has a hologram that's been like lasered into the chocolate. And so as you like move the cookie around, you see this like hologram pattern on the top. It's very cool, but that kind of made me think this is not going to be a very good cookie. It's going to be a cool looking cookie, but it's not going to taste good. Delicious. The best chocolate based cookie of the whole stroll. So I'm just going to give props to Epcot for really, you guys rose to the occasion and created a great cookie stroll this year. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope you'll enjoy it if you come here to Festival of the Holidays. With that, I think I need to go eat a cookie because now I've made myself hungry. So we will see you all in 2 weeks with another episode of the Ear Scouts podcast, and we will resume our regular weekly schedule in 2026. Until then, keep thinking happy thoughts, everybody. We'll see you again real soon.